Imagine a war between the richest man in the world and the richest man in Asia. On one side, you have Jeff Bezos and the unlimited wealth of Amazon. On the other side, you have Mukesh Ambani and the absolute street-smart dominance of Reliance. What were they fighting over? They weren't fighting over oil, and they weren't fighting over the internet. They were fighting over the Indian middle class. They were fighting for Big Bazaar. If you grew up in India in the 2000s, going to the supermarket meant only one thing: going to Big Bazaar. Founded by a man named Kishore Bayani, Big Bazaar was the undisputed king of Indian retail. It was the place where millions of families went to buy their groceries, their clothes, and their kitchen utensils. Both Amazon and Reliance knew a massive secret about India. While online shopping is growing, 90% of Indians still buy their daily goods from physical stores. Both billionaires knew that whoever controlled Big Bazaar's massive network of stores would control the future of shopping in India. So the chessboard was set. And in 2019, Jeff Bezos made the first move. Jeff Bezos desperately wanted Big Bazaar, but because of foreign investment rules, an American company like Amazon couldn't just buy an Indian supermarket outright. So Amazon used a very clever backdoor strategy. In 2019, Amazon gave around $200 million to one of Big Bazaar's smaller partner companies. But Amazon didn't just give the money as a friendly gift. They attached a strict legal chain to it. In exchange for the money, Amazon forced the owners of Big Bazaar to sign a contract. Inside this contract was a restricted persons list. It was a list of companies that Big Bazaar was legally banned from ever doing business with. And sitting right at the top of that banned list was Mukesh Ambani's Reliance. Amazon had set a brilliant legal trap. They essentially locked the doors to Big Bazaar and put the key in their own pocket. They thought they had successfully blocked their biggest rival forever. But they forgot one very important rule of business. A contract is only powerful if the company actually survives. In early 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic hit. The entire country went into a strict lockdown. Big Bazaar's massive physical footprint, which was its biggest strength, suddenly became its biggest curse. Malls were shut down. Big Bazaar's income dropped to zero overnight. However, they still had to pay thousands of employees, and more importantly, they still had to pay massive rent for hundreds of giant stores across the country. Within a few months, the company was drowning in debt. They were on the verge of total bankruptcy. Seeing them dying, Mukesh Ambani made his grand entrance. Completely ignoring Amazon's legal contract, Reliance offered to buy Big Bazaar for $3.4 billion to save them from sinking. When Jeff Bezos found out, Amazon was furious. They immediately dragged Ambani and Big Bazaar into fancy international courts in Singapore and then to the Supreme Court of India. Amazon's lawyers held up their contract and said, "Look, the paper clearly says they cannot sell the business to Reliance." And the judges agreed. The courts legally froze the $3.4 billion deal. Amazon's legal team celebrated. They thought they had successfully stopped the great Reliance takeover using the power of the law. But while Amazon was fighting over a piece of paper in air-conditioned courtrooms, Mukesh Ambani was planning a masterstroke on the ground. Corporate law is deliberately confusing. So to understand Ambani's masterstroke, let's look at a very simple, everyday example. Imagine you run a very popular clothing shop. You own the clothes, the cash register, and the brand name. But there is one major catch. You do not own the physical building. You just rent the space from a local landlord. Now, imagine a rich investor named Amazon gave you money to grow your business. But in return, he made you sign a strict contract saying, you can never sell your shop to your rival, Reliance. But then, a crisis like a lockdown happens. Your shop is forced to close. You have zero income and you cannot pay your rent for 6 months. The landlord is getting angry and threatens to kick you out. Your rival, Reliance, sees this. Reliance really wants your shop locations, but they know they legally cannot buy your company because Amazon's contract will block them in court. So Reliance does something brilliant. Reliance completely ignores you and they completely ignore Amazon. Instead, Reliance goes straight to your landlord. Reliance says to the landlord, "Hey, this shop owner hasn't paid you rent in 6 months. I will pay all their pending rent right now in cash. In exchange, transfer the building's lease into my name. The landlord happily agrees and takes the money. Now, the legal reality has completely changed. You are still running your shop inside the building, but Reliance is now your new landlord. This is exactly what Reliance did in real life. While Amazon's lawyers were busy fighting the court case to stop Reliance from buying the Big Bazaar company, Reliance executives quietly approached the real estate landlords of hundreds of Big Bazaar stores across India. Remember, Big Bazaar hadn't paid rent for months due to the lockdown. Reliance paid the landlords all the pending rent. They legally transferred the property leases into Reliance's name, and then they kindly subleased those exact same stores back to Big Bazaar, allowing them to keep running their daily business. Amazon's lawyers were busy celebrating their airtight legal contract, completely unaware that the actual ground beneath Big Bazaar had just been sold right under their feet. For months, Reliance let Big Bazaar operate normally. But then, in February 2022, Reliance pulled the trigger. Reliance suddenly issued a notice stating, "Big Bazaar has failed to pay us the rent for these stores. Therefore, we are cancelling the agreements." Literally overnight, Reliance employees walked into hundreds of Big Bazaar stores across the country. They locked the doors. They offered new jobs to the unpaid Big Bazaar staff. They took over the inventory, the shelves, and the locations. By the time the sun came up, the iconic Big Bazaar signboards were thrown away. They were replaced by shiny new boards that read Reliance Smart Bazaar. By the time Amazon woke up and realized what had happened, the war was over. Amazon ran to the judges and said, "Look at this paper. They weren't allowed to sell the business to Reliance." And the reality was, Big Bazaar didn't sell the business. Reliance simply took over the buildings because the rent wasn't paid. A few weeks later, Reliance officially told the courts, "We are cancelling our $3.4 billion deal to buy Big Bazaar." Why would they pay $3.4 billion to buy a bankrupt company when they had just used a rent loophole to legally take over all their best store locations for a fraction of the cost? So what is the final lesson of this massive corporate war? Amazon won the legal battle. If you look at the international court papers, Jeff Bezos was right. But Mukesh Ambani won the physical war. He proved that in the Indian market, owning the actual real estate is far more powerful than owning a legal document. Amazon relied on Western corporate law, but Reliance relied on pure street smart execution. Jeff Bezos spent millions of dollars on the best lawyers in the world, but Mukesh Ambani walked away with the supermarkets. It was the ultimate corporate checkmate. If you found this case study insightful, please hit the like button. Share this video to let people know the real story behind why their local Big Bazaar disappeared. If you want to see another video on how a massive $1.4 billion Indian startup completely destroyed itself from the inside, check out my documentary on Hike Messenger right here on the screen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.